Good evening. My name is Marcos Vilar. I'm the Executive Director of Alianza Center and the founder of Alianza for Progress as well. Tonight, we're happy and proud to host the candidate forum for District 47 for the state legislature of here in Osceola County and a little piece of Orange County in the south of Orange County. Alianza's mission is to create pathways for our community to lead, unite, and thrive. And we do this working in the areas of civics, education, arts and culture, health and wellness, and of course, protecting the planet and everything that is in the planet, the forest, the water, the air, and our neighborhoods, okay? So that's what we're about. And we believe that each person is born with inherent worth so that everyone is treated with dignity no matter what. This means that all of our candidates and the people in the audience tonight have a right to state their opinions, and we respect their opinions. We don't need to agree with everything that's said in this panel, but we respect all points of view and respect the candidates who choose to come here and share their ideas with us. We may not agree, like I said before, but we are happy and glad that they're here to discuss their points of view. Today we have Jorge Figueroa and Anthony Nieves. Both of them are running for State Representative District 47 in the state legislature of Florida. And today we're also going to do something unique, something we haven't done up to now, and is we're going to close with a segment in Spanish. Because we have the privilege of having two Spanish speakers here with us today.
That's right.
So we can do it, right? We're not putting anyone in a difficult position by forcing someone who doesn't speak Spanish to speak in Spanish. So we welcome you to the forum, both of you.
Thank you very much
for being here tonight. I'll start by saying a little bit how the forum is going to work. We're going to start with opening statements. So each of you will have 2 minutes to open with a statement. And then each question, each of you will answer. The question is, both of you have a chance to answer each question. And you'll also have 2 minutes to answer the question. Carla over there for now, and later when we switch, I will be over there. We will be marking the time. So when there's 15 seconds left, there'll be a tap on the table. So you know that you need to sort of wrap up in the next few seconds. So we'll start opening statements from far to near, and we'll end with closing statements near to far. So we'll go opposite. Okay, is that okay?
Absolutely.
You agree? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Like I said, our timekeeper's over here, so be aware of the time. We're trying to limit it to 2 minutes per question. You don't have to take the 2 minutes if you don't want, but you have up to 2 minutes. Remember, this is being recorded and will remain archived in our YouTube channel for prosperity. So what you say tonight remains for prosperity, as long as we don't get hacked or anything like that, right? So anyway, that's instructions to the candidates. To the audience, please turn off your cell phones. If you have a cell phone, make sure it doesn't ring. Also, we will have opportunities for folks to ask questions from the candidates. So every time I ask a question, we'll turn to the audience. If there's anyone who has a question that they want to raise from the audience, you can do so. But we ask that you wait for someone to bring a microphone to you. We have a microphone. Camilo has a microphone there in the back. And he will bring you a microphone. We need that so that your question can be heard through the video. It's a small room, but in order for the people who are watching through YouTube, they'll want to be able to hear your question. Also, make sure that your questions are done in a respectful and thoughtful way. We ask that people not bring any campaign literature into the room or signs. You can ask questions by submitting in a card, or you can raise your hand. It's small enough. I think it's manageable tonight that we can take questions just by raising your hand. And your questions will have to be answered by both candidates, okay? So you ask a question, you can ask a question to one candidate, but both of them will have a chance to answer it. The last thing I'll say is that please, you can clap. You can clap also when you like something that somebody says, but don't interrupt. They each have 2 minutes, so don't interrupt. Don't yell out a question. Raise your hand so that we can get you the microphone and do it in an orderly way. All right. So I think with that, that's sort of pretty much the rules of engagement for tonight. I want to welcome you again,
Thank you.
Jorge
Thank you.
and Anthony.
Appreciate it.
And let's start with the opening statements from far near, and then we'll go into the questions.
Well, thank you for having me, Marcos, Alianza, Carla, and the whole staff. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I'm Jorge Figueroa, and I'm running for House District 47 because I think Tallahassee has stopped listening to the needs of our residents in the region. I was born in Puerto Rico and raised in public housing. I moved at the age of 16 to Wisconsin to live the American dream and get a better education. I got my bachelor's degree in finance from the University of Wisconsin-Parkside and my MBA from the University of Phoenix. And I moved to Florida 13 years ago, looking for new opportunities, a fresh start in a weather that is more like Puerto Rico. And God has opened many doors for me. I became a business owner. I met my beautiful wife and created a beautiful family. And I became a business owner. And with that, I became involved with the Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce. I was president for 5 years, and I stepped down to run this campaign. I also served in the Osceola Housing Finance Authority for 4 years, where I realized that there's a lot of needs in our community when it comes to affordable housing and also for the business community to be involved in those developments that happen in our county, and that there's a lot of work to be done to offer our residents real affordability in the state of Florida, an affordability that provides the opportunity to thrive, not just to survive, the opportunity to live the American dream, and just like I am doing. So I'm running because I know there's needs for our people, again, to be in a place that is affordable, in a place that have opportunity for businesses, that provides a good education for our kids, that provides great health care, and the opportunities for all of us to be successful.
Thank you, Jorge. Anthony?
Yeah, good evening, everyone that's here, Alianza Center, the leadership of Alianza. And I just want to take a quick moment to state that this is a great forum opportunity. You guys have been doing it for quite a while, a few election cycles, and it's a great opportunity for the community to understand, what it is that these candidates that are proposing to run for office have. And also, thank you. This actual candidate forum was supposed to be scheduled at an earlier time, and Alianza Center leadership was very kind enough to reschedule the event. I had a personal family circumstance that was arising, so thank you for that. My name is Anthony Nieves. I'm a 23-year resident of Florida, and I've lived in House District 47 for the majority of my adult life. I am the father of 2 children. One, my youngest, is on the autism spectrum. He's nonverbal. And both my kids have been educated in both the Orange County and the Osceola County school systems. I've lived in, again, HD 47 for 17, close to 18 years now, and this is my home. Prior to running for office, I was a fraud investigator for the city of New York before moving down to Florida. And in Florida, I've held numerous positions at the state, local capacities. I was a financial crimes investigator for the state of Florida Department of Financial Services, and I was even a correctional officer here in Osceola County for exactly 2 years with the Osceola County Corrections Department. Aside from that, I worked with the Department of Juvenile Justice assigned to Osceola County as a regional auditor. We basically were sent around the state to make sure that all of the juvenile detention centers were adhering to the state standards. I'm looking to run because, again, our community is underrepresented here in Florida. House District 47 in recent years has been in disarray. I mean, I know right now we don't have our state representative in Paula Stark here, so it's between Jorge and I, and that's something that we have to adjust regardless of whether it's Jorge or I. We have to unite a community because there is a community in House District 47 that is very upset at what transpired.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up. I think that many of our viewers probably don't know that this is an open primary, or they might not know even what is an open primary, right? And so let's talk a little bit about that, because an open primary, when one party does not have a candidate running, then all voters that are registered to vote can vote. So it's like a November election.
Right.
And whoever wins the primary wins the election. So they don't, whoever, between the two of you, whoever wins in August, in a few days, few weeks,
Yeah.
right? Whichever one of you wins on August 18th.
Right.
August 18th. I always screw up the months.
Yeah.
On August 18th, whoever wins that day will be the elected representative for District 47. So talk to us a little bit about how you're seeing that. It's an open primary. And for the voters, make sure that you understand, in this race on August 18th, you don't have to be a registered Democrat to vote for either of these candidates. You can be an independent, or you could be a Republican. So how are you guys adjusting your campaigns based on that situation? Either one.
I'll go ahead. I'll start it off. Obviously, it's a challenging situation, because now you have, two Democrats, and you have a Republican base that is furious. You have Republican constituents, and not only just Republicans, but you have constituents in general, regardless of what party they have, that now no longer have the state representative that they've been accustomed to with the services provided for the last 4 years. So obviously, it's a matter of, I'm sure Jorge would agree with this, it's a matter of really getting out there and having that trust established with the Republican voters. Again, many of times we've heard, I'm just going to skip that section and not vote for any of them. And what I tell those people is, no, look for the qualities that I have, look for the qualities that Jorge has, look at our differences of opinion, which might best serve your particular needs. And that's what we are doing out there to try to, make sure that Republicans are not ousted or don't feel like they have a right. No, they absolutely have a right. I mean, regardless of whether it's Jorge or I elected to office, we're going to have a district office. We're going to have a legislative office. We're going to have satellite offices throughout House District 47. And this is not just for Democratic voters because we're Democrats. This is for everyone in the district. So I definitely want every Republican or third party NPA to make sure that they exercise their right to vote. I'm sure you definitely will find a quality with my opponent, Jorge, or myself, that would best be closest to your desires for the district in years forward.
Oh, definitely, and it is, we are here to serve all Floridians in District 47. So it's not about red or blue, it's not about party affiliation, it's about what's best for the district, what is best for the residents of this community. And even though the winner, regardless of whether it's Anthony or myself, is going to be a Democrat, we're going to be serving all the population. And we need to make sure that you do your homework. You need to study both candidates, look at what set us apart, look at our trajectory, what we've done in the community, and decide for yourselves who's better fit to take on this job at the legislature. We are in very important times right now for our communities, with an economy that is lagging, with affordability issues that are pricing our residents out of their homes. And there are a lot of MPAs and Republicans that still have a choice to make. Whether it's my opponent or myself, we need to represent your values, your morals, what you stand for, and what this community needs. And it is important that everybody do that homework and that they make a decision. Not going out to vote is just putting the decision in other voters' hands. So if you're a Democrat, an MPA, know that you still have a right. You're not being left out of these elections. You are able to make a decision now in August is the only difference, but, and of course, Representative Paula Stark, unfortunately, is not going to be able to run for re-election, but there are still two candidates that we're willing and able to provide a choice to the voters.
Great. And we're going to get into affordability in a minute, but I wanted to give an opportunity to anyone in the audience who would like to ask a question.
What kind of project,
Wait, can you say your question in the microphone, please? I'm sorry. No problem.
my question is for Jorge Figueroa. What kind of project you have in your mind to reduce the affordability situation?
Well, there's a lot of things. I think one of the things that, and that's one of the priorities of my campaign is the housing affordability. As a former member of the Commission for Housing Finance Authority in Osceola, I've seen firsthand, the need for affordable housing units. However, there's also a need for infrastructure to go along with the developments that are providing these housing units. Our water supply is being stressed with all the developments. We have seen an increase in traffic. We have seen a very stressed infrastructure that is not up to par. Schools that are being built and schools that are not keeping pace with the developments. So what I have in mind is a comprehensive plan that not only provide affordable housing units, but also workforce housing. Why is this? Because when individuals live close to their workplace, they don't have to go through traffic. We got a lot of people in the hospitality industry that have to drive for hours to get to work. So their performance suffers, the productivity suffers, so business suffer. I think affordability affects the quality of life. We need to make sure that our seniors don't have to make a decision about renting versus buying groceries or buying prescription drugs. We need to make sure that our working families or young families are not being priced out of the housing market, and that's what's going on. So we need to make sure that we also tackle the insurance industry that is pricing our people out. So it's a comprehensive legislation that covers different areas that is good for our residents, is good for the quality of life, and is good for businesses as well.
Thank you.
Again, when it comes to affordability, it's a big picture. We look at what has transpired in Florida. We look at the last 30 years. The last 30 years, Florida has been under a Republican control. Whether you look at the state Senate, the state House, the keys to the governor's mansion, and even the majority of the judgeships that are in Florida, they've been appointed by Republican leadership. Now that makes local Republicans furious, in the sense of we've had dominance in, the chambers of Florida's government, and yet it's still not giving back to the people. Then we have Democrats that on the flip side say, well, we haven't had control at any house, the House, the Senate, or the governor's mansion during that time frame. So they both have issues. With affordability, we look at what's been occurring in the last 20 years. For example, public transportation, and I focus on that because in St. Cloud, you have a population that has pretty much doubled over the last 20 to 30 years. Yet, they still only have one Lynx bus route. And that Lynx bus route doesn't have extra buses on the route. Now you're talking to the single parent that is in a reduced income housing situation, now with no car, having to now take that public transportation that's not really readily available. What we're also seeing lately from when I moved down here 24 years ago is that even people that rent in apartments, there are junk fees that have been established. You have a car, you have to pay for the parking space. When I moved to Florida, you didn't pay for the parking space. You could have 2 to 3 cars to a 1-bedroom apartment, and now it's $60 to $100 per vehicle that you have. So you're being penalized to have a vehicle which you need to work in Florida with the lack of public transportation options.
So on the affordability issue, both of you mentioned housing as an important aspect. Jorge, you spoke a lot about that. We also know that campaigns oftentimes are funded by different interests, right? So what funding have you received from developers or real estate PACs, or have you or have you not? And if you have, how does that impact your decisions when you are going to vote in Tallahassee?
Another good question. I have not taken anything as of now, from any particular developer. I don't, and it's not just to say that I haven't accepted those type of, monetary contributions to the campaign, but I've also made sure to not associate with PACs whose money comes from developers. And that's something that a lot of candidates throughout, election cycles will say is, I don't take, corporate PAC money. I don't take developer money. But you are if you're taking from a PAC who's entirely funded by mega donor developers. But as of now, we've stayed clear of developer and real estate PACs as a matter of choice, because we feel that the people would feel that we're more transparent and not falling into the trap of the big developer or the government contracts. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate that many candidates survive only on government contract money and mega donors, mega developers.
Yeah, and again, I have received money from different trade organizations. Again, as I got a background with the Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce of supporting businesses, especially small businesses. And in Florida, especially in our region, we are in a very vibrant economic region, and we need to make sure that we have incentives, that we have different programs that help these businesses survive. But as far as mega developers or anything like that, I have not, but I definitely want to make sure that individuals know that I am pro-business, and I'm not going to shy away from trade organizations that want to keep the economy in this region vibrant, because as we all know, and it sounds cliche and everybody says, but the small business are the backbone of this economy. As a small business owner myself, we create jobs, we provide households and income for them to survive and to thrive. And if we do not help the economic engine that we have in our region, whether it's agriculture, the hospitality industry, technology, etc., and construction, which is huge. I mean, we're receiving over 1,000 people a day in this region, and we need to make sure that we have the infrastructure, the housing, and the workers and the companies that can do the work here locally, so that money stays in our region.
So I'm going to ask a question right now. It's a lightning question. That means you have 10 seconds to answer it very quickly. And it's a simple question. And then we're going to turn again to the audience for a question from the audience. So the question is, talking about affordability, what would be one thing, top of your list, that you can do as a legislator in Tallahassee to alleviate what we're going through in the streets here, in the neighborhoods here in Central Florida in terms of affordability?
I think investing in transportation. We do not have a robust transportation system, and that's something that Anthony touched on. And it is very important for people to get to and from work, as well as for our visitors.
Thank you.
Again, you're going to deal with the public transportation, and you're going to have to understand that as a state legislator, our main job is to create a budget. If that money is not reaching our local area, then we have to be more knowledgeable of how to fund these services for the community.
All right. So both of you said transportation, so we have something in common here. It's going to be hard to fight that one. So transportation, your top issue. Okay. So from the audience, any questions? A la una. A las dos. Okay, we go on. So let's talk now about something that happened just recently, and I'd like to take get your take on this decision by the governor primarily, but also by the legislature who voted for it, and it's redistricting. We're seeing that in many states where in order a party that has control of the legislature sees that they are not in good shape, and then they take, in the middle of a decade, so you're supposed to redistrict every 10 years. So they take and they redraw the districts. So I would like to know your take on that. What do you think about that? Any statements specifically about that? And as a state legislator, what would you do to fix that if you think that needs to be fixed?
Well, I think the Constitution and the laws of Florida are clear, and redistricting in the middle of a decade is unconstitutional based on the laws of the state. So one of the things that we need to look at is why our laws are not being applied. You know, why are we going with whatever the governor says? And you know, I think this is something that it comes from our administration. I mean, when the president says jump, everybody in every state is asking how high you want me to jump. And I don't think, you know, that we are under a king or somebody who has all the answers and can tell people what to do. So as a legislator, I think the first thing is to make sure that our Constitution is followed, that the laws are followed, and that our Justice Department is doing their job when it comes to making sure that, hey, we cannot allow that. And obviously, you know, it also shows a sign of weakness from the Republican Party, because they are scared of what's going to happen in these midterm elections. And you know, they're taking any path available to make sure that Democrats don't get the House and the Senate back. So yeah, I mean, as a legislature, I think we need to abide by the laws and the Constitution of this great state of Florida.
Thank you. Anthony?
I know about that very well. When I first jumped into the political arena, it was for House District 43. Now, House District 43 encompassed two main areas. That was Buenaventura Lakes, where I live, and also the majority of Ponciana in Osceola County side. After spending close to a year and a half in Ponciana, dealing with the traffic, to visit people, to visit constituents, to educate, it was about 5 months before the primary of 2022, redistricting occurred, and they basically took all of Ponciana away from the district and substituted that with St. Cloud within city limits. So when you look at the population of Ponciana, which is predominantly Caribbean islanders from Puerto Rico mostly, and you look at St. Cloud, different demographics completely. And that's an example of what they did. They swapped Ponciana for St. Cloud, and I was able to win the nomination that year, but not the general election against Paula Stark, where I lost by 1.5%. So as a legislator, I would definitely try to hold them accountable, hold the supermajority accountable. And hopefully with the inroads we've made with Republican leaders in House District 47, we can use that to become a vessel, a conduit, to bridge the gap with Republican leadership in Tallahassee to say, listen, if you're not going to fund us, then we're going to be in disarray trying to figure out what alternatives we have to create that funding that's needed for our community. So what gives? But when it comes to the gerrymandering and the redistricting, it's something that everyone needs to be on hyper alert with, and to contact their local officials statewide, if be, so that that noise can reach Tallahassee, being that, you know, it's difficult for our community to always head up to Tallahassee when Tallahassee is a half-day trip away. You know?
Yeah. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit more about that in our Spanish segment. We're going to end in Spanish because I think that this is an interesting topic and we need to talk about it some more, but I'm going to wait till we do the Spanish round to talk about it. Because it has to do with the games people play in politics, right? Oh, yes. There's a lot of games played in politics, and sometimes, you know, those games are played in order to keep some people, you know, disenfranchised, or some people unrepresented, and others have an advantage. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that at the end when we do our Spanish round. Okay, so any questions from the audience? Yes, in English. Yes. We have one in the back.
I want to know if the candidate knows the budget that is assigning for this District 47.
Good question. So the question is, any of you know what budget is assigned for the district as a legislator?
I can't tell you.
I don't know. No.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
But what we do know is that every year it goes up and up and up, and there's, you know, if we don't have alternatives of funding, you know, we have to think about that at the local level, you know.
So one of the things that is in people's mind as well, and Carla's gonna be talking a little bit about the impacts of AI, but I don't want to get put the horse ahead of the cart or the cart ahead of the horse. I but it's sort of related also is the utility rates. It seems like in this state, the private utility companies have been almost like able to raise the price whenever they want at will, even when the price of gasoline or other fossils that are used to produce the electricity go down. The prices don't go down in the bills, the electric bills, right? They keep on going up. So what is your plan to address the growing costs of utility bills, particularly electricity? And what do you make of the hostility of this legislature against alternative sources of energy like solar?
Well, I think, that is something that is very upsetting. A few years back, the federal government gave Florida, I think it was, I can think of the exact number, but it was a lot of money for solar credits to help individuals who are interested in solar and alternative renewable energy sources. And all those funds were sent back to the federal government. Those funds don't belong to our elected officials for them to make such a decision. I think they took away from the residents of Florida the opportunity to look at different renewable energy sources without our citizens having a say on that decision. I think we definitely need to make sure that we have an overseeing board on the pricing of utilities. Most of the time, like now, when we have a war going on in the Middle East, we know that the gas prices are going up. I mean, you can see a good, smart, common sense reasoning of why the costs are going up. But when the cost of gas goes down, there shouldn't be a reason for us to pay more. On the contrary, we should see a relief on the price of energy. So that tells me that there is not someone overseeing our utility companies and what they can do to, again, continue making our citizens pay more. That's one of the reasons why we continue to be unaffordable and why affordability is so important, because we need to keep track of what's driving costs up for our people.
Thank you. Anthony?
The challenge for any elected official in the State House, especially those that are Democrat, is how are you going to convince your Republican counterparts? And that is something where you need to be pragmatic, you need to have tact, and you need to figure out how am I going to go across the aisle and convince another legislator that's from another party that this is what we need here in Florida. Now, one of the things that I know is that when you look at organizations that work in multiple counties, you have distressed areas throughout Florida. So even in the most wealthy House district, you're still going to have communities that are suffering, financially. We have to reach out to those communities in those districts of those representatives and kind of create that collective where that collective noise is brought, not just from a certain area of House District 47, but collectively from different neighborhoods and communities throughout the state of Florida. If we bring that to Tallahassee, that is an alternative, so to speak, for the Republican Party to realize, listen, we can't continue to give these big corporations free domain to do as they please. And that's why, another reason why I stay clear of corporate PAC money that's from, big energy, because I don't see them creating an alternative to the average consumer to lower that cost. It's about me, and we suffer that in Puerto Rico, we suffer that in New York whenever there's an electrical outage, and we suffer that here in Florida. So that's pretty much what we're going to have to do up there.
Well, thank you. We're going to take a short break, 3 to 5 minutes, And we're going to have another set of questions where Carla Rivera, our colleague here from Alianza Center, will be leading those questions. And like I said, we'll take another short break in about half an hour after that to then conclude in our Spanish language round.
Sounds good.
The first one we do.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Well, the honor is going to be us speaking Spanish por la
Yes,
primera vez.
yeah.
Hi everyone, welcome back. Hi, how are ya?
Good.
Very good.
I'm
Thanks.
Carla Rivera, I'm the policy director, and this is the second round of questions. I may have not the most controversial, but some spicy questions, and you'll have 2 minutes, and whenever the time is up, Marcos will let you know. Okay? You're welcome to ask me to repeat the question if you just feel comfortable, you just want to listen in again. Okay?
Sounds good.
So the first question will be, you may already know that at the state legislature level, we have the supermajority Republican. You're both Democrats. This is an open primary. How will you look forward? How do you plan to work with members of both parties to do your job, to achieve your goals?
What I stated earlier and with a previous question, and that is you have to find the angle. Obviously, we're all human beings. We all have families. We all have different circumstances that others can say that applies to me. But when it comes to the supermajority in Tallahassee, and it's a supermajority that's been in place for several years, we want to make sure that we reach out to sectors of every House district that are in unison and have that collective with, let's say, an organization like Alianza, for example. If you're operating in more in counties that are Republican-leaning counties, you definitely want to reach out to those communities that are suffering and kind of bring that correlation that it doesn't matter whether you're representing or you're in an affluent community, you still have sectors within that affluent community that will rival those that I might have, except I might have much more communities that are suffering economically. So when you find that parallel, you can definitely bring that to the table and allow the legislators in Tallahassee to say, listen, just because you're in Tallahassee doesn't mean that you're supposed to be that disconnected from areas in your community that we know would benefit from a proposed legislation that Democrats, let's say, put forth or initiate. Because you don't want to be in a situation where you get 3-4 attempts to, legislate or to create legislation and then find out that you've squandered all 4 opportunities on something nonsensical. It has to be relevant to the circumstances that you're dealing with the most in your community. Guaranteed, if it's relevant in your community, it's going to be relevant in other communities. And that's what you have to kind of correlate with each other.
Yeah. And I think, I've already done that when it comes to, wait a minute.
Just give us a second.
Technical difficulties. All right. Excellent. So, I've already done that. I have in my trips to Washington, D.C. to advocate for bipartisan immigration reform. I've talked to congressmen in both sides of the aisle, as well as with senators. Here in Tallahassee, the same, we're looking for opportunities and incentives for most businesses. We need to, as an apolitical organization, the chamber had to work with both parties in order to look for opportunities for our business members. So I will obviously rely on that experience, but we need to look for common ground. At the end of the day, we all want the same things. So, we want to live the American dream. We want a secure nation. We want to make sure that we have the opportunities to thrive, that we have a great education for our kids, and that we can live a life where we can actually enjoy it, and we don't have to worry about where our next plate of food is going to come from. And I think when we are in the legislature, we're serving the whole state. You know, we represent District 47, but we're working for all Floridians. And at the end of the day, we need to look for commonalities, common grounds with individuals on the other side of the aisle that can relate to what we want to bring to the table. And we need to learn to listen and to compromise. And I think that's something that the divisiveness in the current political climate has steered away. You know, now it's very hard for families to communicate with one another if they're from different parties. But when we all put our people and constituents first, we can find those ways to work together and make common sense solutions.
Thank you. So now we move forward with property taxes. This is a very interesting topic, as you know, just I'm not gonna say anything more about that, right? So the question is, you know, Amendment 3 is coming out for general elections, right? Yes. If Amendment 3 passes, how do you think it will affect your district?
I think, well, I know it's going to be very difficult for our communities. It's going to be difficult for the city of St. Cloud, the city of Kissimmee, and the counties, Orange and Osceola, to hire essential workers. You know, this bill, as it is written, it is not what the real relief that individuals are looking. I mean, if we look at the terminology that is used, and it actually came out in the news today that a judge said that the language in this bill is deceptive, is deceiving. You know, there's some terminology there that is basically has a political tone for people to think that this is a real relief. But in essence, it's a shift in taxes. We're going, if this passes, we're going to see that taxes are going to be applied in other areas, more fees are going to be assessed, we're going to see some services being cut. I know for a fact, speaking with some of the officials and administrators in the city of Kissimmee, they will face a 20% loss of revenue, and they'll have to cost you know, recreational services. They're going to have to stop supporting some of the nonprofit organizations like Alianza, who provide a lot of different initiatives and programming for our communities. So our district is going to suffer, our quality of life is going to suffer, and there will be a stop in hiring for essential areas of government and community that we really need to continue enjoying the quality of life that we currently have.
Thank you.
You know, again, it's a tough situation, but if it passes, we're going to be in a bit of a troubled situation, because now you're going to have to figure out how are you going to fund the local services that are needed. I was a correction officer here in Osceola County a number of years ago. Our fire, our police, our corrections, they are already suffering from budget cuts. They're understaffed, they're underpaid. If you pass if this passes, which by the way, it's something that was kind of put out there a few months ago. There's been no studies, no in-depth studies. This hasn't been discussed in any type of community town hall setting throughout the state. So because it hasn't been extensive, it's pretty much being shoved down our throat. Now, Osceola County, especially House District 47, we are renter heavy, a lot of apartment complexes here. So you're going to leave that decision to homeowners, and now the services are going to be lessened for those renters, let's say in apartment complexes that reside. These are things that have to be brought out. Now, without disenfranchising Republicans, because again, the universal primary that Jorge and I are in is for everyone to vote, we need all Republicans that decide, I want to choose Anthony or I want to choose Jorge, to join with us. It's not just electing us now, it's to join with us and to make that noise in Tallahassee with those in power to say, listen, how are our local governments supposed to compensate for that? The reality is that the main goal of the state house and as a legislator is to pass a budget. That's what we're there for. We're there to pass a budget, and the communities are the ones that are supposed to receive those funds. If we're underfunded and we're not receiving the state funding that we deserve, that's pretty much a trap for our locally elected leaders, which in this case are mostly Democrat, that will have to face that shortfall and the wind of the community as they complain about, well, it's all your fault. Well, no, this is coming from Tallahassee. This is coming from 30 years of Republican control in both chambers of the Florida government.
Thank you. Thank you both. Do we have any questions from the public? Yes?
Hey, my question is for both. I'm not a party, I don't have party affiliation, but I'm gonna vote yes. And let me tell you why. I'm a homeowner, and every single year, the property taxes increase. Every single year. Also, the electricity, also the water utility. And I got a concern. When was the last time the homestead was reviewed? When? In the 80s. I think that we got an opportunity to vote yes because we need to increase that homestead. And the homestead is gonna be just for the primary residents. The renters continue paying taxes. The homeowners, they have more than one property, continue paying taxes. In my case, that I'm gonna vote yes, what you guys would do with those residents that agree with that amendment to get your vote, the vote, to give you the vote. What is your opinion about that? Because I know the situation with the budget, but we need to reevaluate the budget institution, the government budget, because I don't know if they got any board to evaluate what happened in the government of San Cloud, Kissimmee. We need to reevaluate what they're doing with the budget. We need to adjust our budget when they have to do something with their budget.
Again, the issue that I have is that it was pretty much forced down our throats without much oversight from the constituency, and now they want us to vote. Now, a study was done, not a study, analytics were put out by Florida Tax Watch from 2014 to 2024, for example. Property taxes levied on the people was about 108% increase. From 2014 to 2024, there was a 108% increase. Now, to counter that, inflation and population increase was only 55%. So that's something that a lot of Republicans have told me, well, you know, you guys are getting the money. What do you mean we're getting the money? We're not, you know. I believe that this is something that could be put forth for the people to choose, but not as soon as it's being done. I'll give you another quick example since I have a few seconds. The Osceola County School Board just recently, it's going to be on the ballot in November, you know, to vote whether there's going to be an increase in, again, fees and taxes to fund our vocational schools, our alternative schools, our special needs schools, and to provide a salary increase, an income increase to our teachers. We're lagging behind nationally, and this is something that's going to come up. So we're getting taxed and fees here and there, but that's a perfect example. To know that in November, it was just, I think, released yesterday, to know that in November we're going to be voting on whether we're going to be paying an additional tax or fee for 4 years to fund our schools better, to fund our charter schools, which that's something I would have to discuss later on. But I think it needs to be well thought of before it's put to vote, and I think it's too soon.
Well, I mean, right now there's nothing that we can do about that bill, because it's already in the ballot. So it was already decided that it will be in the ballot, and it's up to the voters to determine if the savings are worth the negative effects or the cut on other services. So, from our part, whether if either of us get elected, there's nothing that we can do about that bill. It's going to, if it passes in November with a 60% threshold that it needs to, in order to be passed, it will come to be. So there's nothing that we can do about it. Then we need to focus on finding solutions, as you mentioned, for our local governments and municipalities to make up the loss of funds. And that's actually, one of the issues that I have, that there isn't a plan for local communities to make up those funds that they're going to lose. Now, I've talked to different constituents, and they tell me, well, I'm going to be saving maybe $200-300 a year. I think that the problem that we really have, especially homeowners that have, is that we have very high insurance costs. I know individuals who are paying twice as much in insurance, in property insurance, than they do in property taxes. That right there is a problem that if we can tackle the insurance problem, it will help and benefit all Floridians. Right now the home tax amendment 3 is going to support those individuals who own a home, but we're still going to continue having the insurance problem. So there's nothing that we can do except for work together with our local elected officials and find solutions and ways to make up those funds without affecting the essential services like fire, police, and all the extracurricular activities that those funds provide.
Thank you. So we're talking about, money, property taxes, and this is one of my favorite topics, actually. You all know I have worked in the legislature before, so I have, experience there. Every session, legislators can submit appropriation requests, which are also known as budget line items. So they can bring money back home, right? Would you prioritize funding for local nonprofits and community organizations in this district, or larger county and state level projects? And how will you decide who gets left out?
I can start with that. I definitely am very, I got some experience with that. A few years ago, when I was president of the Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce, we had an appropriations line item that was vetoed by the governor, which I thought that it will go through just because it was to assist small businesses in this region to continue growing and providing more employment and more opportunities for our constituents, our residents in this area. Needless to say, I think that we need to evaluate every line item, or the companies or the organizations rather, and the municipalities, and what the funds will be used for. We know for a fact that nonprofit organizations in the community are usually the ones doing the hard work, the legwork, the grassroots efforts that are directly directed to our residents. And we've seen that in Washington under President Biden. He created under the U.S. Department of Commerce the Office of Faith-Based and Nonprofit Organizations to provide funding and incentives to those organizations who are actually doing the work. A lot of times when those funds get to the local governments, they don't get to the organizations that are really doing the work. So we need to evaluate what effect, if any, is going to have in our local communities, and make sure that we get those line items in place for those who deserve it. At the end of the day, the governor has the last word, and he can decide to veto the line item just as he did for the Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce and a lot of different organizations in Central Florida. You know, and we can put it in there, but it's up to the governor to approve it.
You know, again, when you're dealing with the nonprofits that put in all the work, they're the ones that are out there, we would have to look at, let's look at the history. Which nonprofits, for example, in House District 47 have been always receiving a steady flow of appropriations? What are they doing to get those appropriations that, let's say, another organization is not doing, so that we can put them on par to receive these organizations? When it comes to nonprofit organizations, there are so many that pop up daily. And a lot of them are, you know, have even been, you know, stated as being shell organizations or sham organizations. Oh, I'm running a nonprofit. Well, what is your nonprofit doing? What has your nonprofit done? What are the statistics? What videos can you archive of, you know, events that you're having that show that we're putting in that work? Those are the organizations that we would have to prioritize. We know that there are connections, there are backdoor deals to who gets what. It's synonymous with American and Floridian politics, and that should not be the case. Everyone should have an equal opportunity to receive the appropriate appropriations needed to fulfill their mission statement. If elected, I would make sure that when it comes to these line items that we actually break them down and look and see, why is this organization always getting the same amount of money or getting more funding, and why are these organizations never receiving any funding? A lot of times it's a relationship between, you know, elected officials and local leaders. A lot of times it's, you know, scandals that, you know, organizations might have been involved in, you know. So we really have to look at it from that approach before we can sit down and say, okay, this is what, you know, X organization should get over Y, because it creates a lot of friction as well amongst our community leaders and nonprofits.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience? Going once, going twice? Okay, we'll resume with my questions then. Well, now we're gonna move forward with youth. I work a lot with them. We go to high schools to recruit and mobilize and just teach them civics and anything about our programming, because we need them more involved in our community. How do you envision the role of youth in shaping policies that affect their lives in our community?
Can you repeat that one more time, please? Let's use that.
Will do. How do you envision the role of youth in shaping policies that affect their lives in our community?
If you want me to go first? Yeah. So again, we deal with nonprofits. I see a lot of youth organizations that are springing up left and right, especially here in Osceola County, and they're youth driven. So that if we are, as legislators, telling everyone that we are, you know, that the children are the future, we have to make sure that they are very much involved in the process to make these policies a reality. You know, I am one that has a child of 12 years of age that's nonverbal. And when you talk about being a voice, or what advocacy does he have as a nonverbal child on the autism spectrum, and as a young preteen, he has no voice. So what are we going to do now to implement we have to deal with family members of children that have autism? You know, that if a child with autism has a family member of similar age, we need to activate those brothers and sisters into the process of creating reform and legislation that can benefit the community. So I would just state that, you know, as someone who worked with the juvenile detention community here in Osceola County specifically, we just have to show them that we care and what they can do and what they have the power to do to make that change, or to initiate and assist us with, you know, establishing policy that will benefit them in the long run, whether it's related to the environment, related to academics, related to, you know, science and industry. That's pretty much it.
Thank you, Anthony.
Well, you know, I think our youth voice is very important. I think we have all been through the process of being a young adult with an opinion and being pushed to the side because of our age. And youth is very important. You know, one of the my own experiences with as a young when I was young, was having the opportunity to see the possibilities of being in the United States. Having the opportunity to attend leadership conferences where you have individuals, world-class individuals. Like I had the opportunity when I was young in college to see Bill Clinton, Al Gore, Luis Gutierrez, Doña Felisa Rincón de Gautier, before she passed away, the founder of Aspira, Pantojas. And that to me, when you see people just like you succeeding and creating opportunities for others, that give you a sense of what you can become. And one of the things that we're seeing is groups like the Young Democrats, Young Republicans that are being more involved in politics. They have a different viewpoint than adults have. They have new ideas, fresh ideas, perhaps things that we overlook because we think we know it all. And I think providing those opportunities to the young generation to be involved, not to see civics and community involvement as extra work, but as an opportunity to grow as an individuals and to have a vision of where they want to get in life as future leaders that they are for this community. That's our responsibility as adults to provide those opportunities. I have spoken to groups in the high schools for Latinos in Action about my life experience and trajectory, because they can relate their history, my story, to their livelihoods.
Thank you. Yes, representation is pretty important across generations, and we do that in Alianza. So I'm proud of
Yes,
it,
indeed.
actually. Well, do we have any questions from the audience? No questions? Are you sure? Okay. Well, my questions again. We're now going to move forward with data centers, which is a very interesting topic and hot topic as well.
Yes, indeed.
Will you be in favor of building a data center in your district? And if yes, in what conditions?
No. I think that's a definite no. As we know, data centers, they require a lot of infrastructure, a lot of electricity, as well as water resources. We are already, our region, our district is already stressed, especially in Osceola County, with the water system providing water to all the developments that are going on. It doesn't only affect the new developments, but it also affects one of the most important industries in our region, which is the agricultural industry. So for a data center to be here, obviously we need to evaluate all the environmental impacts, and if the benefits outweigh the long-term effects that it's going to have in our communities. But as we are right now, I don't think we have the infrastructure to support any data centers. It will put a stress in our infrastructure, in our water, in our environment. And if we look at the examples in Virginia, where a lot of residents are complaining about the zooming noise that these data centers do all the time because they're working 24/7. It also affects the quality of life. So I will definitely be against having a data center here in our district. I don't think it's in our best interest, and it will have a negative effect in the economy and the quality of life of our residents. I will always put our residents ahead of corporate profits.
Thank you.
Same for me. It's a no, clear no. And again, this is something that has been popped up recently in the news that's been trending, the issue of data centers in your community. And when we look at that, we have to realize that, okay, you're going to provide, it makes it seem like you're going to be providing lots of jobs. And the reality is it's very little jobs that these large megastructures create. We need to have town halls, something that you hear a lot of people when we're knocking on doors saying, where do you guys meet? Where do you guys discuss anything? To build a mega structure that's labeled as a data center for AI specifics, you have to have the community involved, especially the young that we were talking about with your previous question. The adverse effects to the environment are incredibly, negative. And then it's going to cause individuals like our Congressman Darren Soto to have to fight and be even more creative to find ways to support stormwater issues and the tributary issues. So we're going to have data centers that are going to be providing havoc, possibly millions or billions of dollars in damage to the environment. And then we're going to have our locally elected officials or our congressional and federal officials fighting to the death, literally, just to be able to mitigate a small percentage of the damage that was done prior. So I'll leave that at that. And I guess it's both a no for us. We're both
definitely.
against the data centers in our communities.
This is great. I love it. I love it. Well, this will be the last question for this section, and then we'll move forward with the Spanish section, which Marcos Livilar will be the moderator. If elected, what specific legislation do you plan to champion in your first term to address a pressing issue in your district?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Again, I think the housing affordability and is very important because it affects all Floridians. I think that's legislation that we can all get behind, regardless of party affiliation. We have seen that Florida has become unaffordable for a lot of individuals. We see our homeless population increasing. We need to look at the demographics that we have in the state. We are the retirement states. We have a lot of seniors. And what happens when you have seniors in a home with a fixed income and one of them passes away? Just like it happened here in Kissimmee with Aurea, a lady that I used to buy pasteles from. Her husband passed away. They're both in Social Security. Now she becomes basically homeless because she cannot afford the rent. She does not qualify to be in that apartment. Luckily for her, she had family in the area. But what happens to all these retirees from other states that don't have family here? What happens to the young families, to the firefighters, the hospitality workers, the young couples who are starting a life together, and they're being priced out of the home buying process because of high insurance, and because the accessibility to buy a home is not there. We are lacking housing units, and that is a problem. And with that comes the infrastructure. We continue approving developments without the infrastructure in place. It creates congestion. It creates a revolving door for employers to hire and retain employees. So it covers a big range of problems that I think can be fixed and addressed with affordability legislation.
Thank you, Jorge.
I entered the field of politics to be a voice for my son. I had him, my youngest son, nonverbal, I had him at the age of 40. And, my time on earth with him is the reality. It's not going to be that long. As someone myself who's an only child, I don't have brothers and sisters, which means my son doesn't have aunts and uncles. He doesn't have his primos or primas. That doesn't exist on my side of the family. So I have to be that voice for him, especially with the way Florida is and the services that are not there for children on the autism spectrum, especially those that are nonverbal. The first law that I would put into place, that I would legislate for, would be to pass and to bring Elijah's Law into existence. Elijah Silvera is an extended family member of mine who passed away due to anaphylactic shock. Eating a grilled cheese sandwich when he is lactose intolerant at a daycare center caused him to lose his life. As a result, his father and mother and family and friends, they created a nonprofit that has successfully gone through multiple states, blue and red, from New York and California and Illinois to South Carolina with Governor Sanders Huckabee, who's a Republican. And what this law implements is training of daycare workers to use the EpiPen, to know the telltale signs of anaphylactic shock. I have a personal experience where I almost lost my kid here in Osceola County in a peanut-free school where there are signs all over the school that say peanut-free zone, My kid's medical record is that he's severely allergic to peanuts, and he was given 2 trick-or-treat sized candy bars of Snickers which contain peanuts. What child is not going to like that? He was rushed to the hospital. We almost lost him, but did not. And that just kind of recharged my batteries to say enough is enough. If this isn't law, we need to bring Elijah's Law to the state of Florida. We have our team in place. We have our physicians, our experts. It's just a matter of getting into office and making that a reality.
Thank you. Well, it's not time to go. Well, at least for me. Nos vemos en 2 minutos. Marcos Vilar will be here shortly.
Very good.
Buenas noches, ahora comenzamos la sección en español. Esta noche estamos haciendo esto por primera vez, la versión criolla del Candidate Forum. Y la verdad es que normalmente no podemos hacerlo en español porque tenemos candidatos que no hablan español, entonces no es justo para la discusión que unos puedan conversar en el mejor lenguaje y otros pues que se tengan que quedar muditos o tartamudo, ¿verdad? A nosotros nos obligan, ¿verdad? A tener a hablar con acento, pero a ellos no les gusta. De todas maneras, vamos al grano, nos queda media hora esta noche y queremos aprovechar lo más posible esta oportunidad. Quiero decir que ha sido una discusión hasta la fecha en inglés muy productiva, muy beneficiosa, y a mí me llena de orgullo ver 2 candidatos puertorriqueños hábiles, discutiendo los temas, de acuerdo con muchos temas, diferencias aquí y allá, pero que verdaderamente han tomado la tarea. Y si uno, para ser sincero, si uno ve algunos de los otros debates que hemos tenido 2 ya este año y el año anterior tuvimos unos cuantos más, yo creo que el nivel de conversación de esta noche ha sido muy bueno. Así que los felicito a los 2, les agradezco que estén aquí y la verdad es que pienso que ambos serían una buena representación para esta comunidad en Tallahassee. Así que muchas gracias a los 2. Ahora bien, ahora nos vamos a poner a hablar un poquito sobre cosas que a lo mejor en español las podemos hablar un poco mejor. Y una de ellas es Osceola County. Yo quiero, el distrito de ustedes queda principalmente en Osceola County. Y la parte de Orange County también es muy puertorriqueña y latina, ¿verdad? Osceola County tiene la mayoría de los ciudadanos de Osceola County son hispanos. Y dentro de los hispanos la mayoría son puertorriqueños. Y tenemos 2 candidatos puertorriqueños aquí hoy. Entonces, Sin embargo, vemos que la representación a veces en distritos que son sólidamente hispanos están representados por personas de otras, personas de aquí, que son de aquí. Y estamos entrando por primera vez a ocupar, y yo creo que en los últimos 10 años se ha hecho un trabajo muy productivo en la comunidad para que más hispanos sean electos a puestos políticos como ustedes que están corriendo para el Distrito 47. Pero, sin embargo, se ve como que lo que llaman un good old boy system que predomina la política local. ¿Cómo ustedes ven esa dinámica? Y yo no soy de los que piensa que uno de que debemos tener un puertorriqueño, porque el distrito puertorriqueño debe ser un candidato que esté equipado y que esté capacitado para representarnos como comunidad de una manera efectiva. ¿Cómo ustedes ven esa situación aquí en Osceola County? Y como demócratas, ustedes son demócratas, ¿cómo ustedes ven el partido, la relación entre el partido y la comunidad y ese tipo de dinámica?
Bueno, lo que hemos visto aquí, por ejemplo, en Osceola County, en el condado de Osceola, ha sido increíble en los últimos 10, 12 años específicamente. Sí, la verdad es que la representación al nivel de los oficiales electos ha subido, como debería ser, pero hemos visto los jueguitos, los trucos, como dicen, tú sabes, cuando ponen candidatos al último minuto, que son, como dicen, ghost candidates, que son candidatos que realmente no tienen la intención de ser electos, pero si no, están ahí para quitarle el voto a la persona que debería o la persona que merece ese puesto. Y eso es parte del good old boy system, como es. Y no has dominado en los últimos 3 ciclos, específicamente aquí en el condado de Osceola, y tenemos esa falta de representación hispana por esos jueguitos que juegan lo que dicen lo del establecimiento o lo que son the corporate givers, you know, and then in the end we suffer. Pero a la misma vez necesitamos diferentes foros como este para educar el pueblo. Esto está ocurriendo. Hay muchas posiciones que hemos perdido por ese jueguito de que tiran un candidato o tratan de aflojar la influencia o los votos hispanos hacia un candidato hispano y así. Y tenemos unos cuantos ahora mismo que están en su puesto por eso mismo. La realidad es educar tu vecino, educar tu comunidad para que sepan que lo que están leyendo en el periódico o lo que han visto en la televisión o en cualquier novela o televisión es la realidad que está ocurriendo. Y para poder parar eso tenemos que educar al pueblo para decir, mira, these games need to be highlighted, we need to stop it.
Definitivamente yo creo que hay 2 razones claves por la cual yo creo que no tenemos suficiente representación en posiciones electas. Una de ellas obviamente es la falta de información y educación de la comunidad hispana en los procesos de elecciones aquí en la Florida. Yo llevo 35 años en los Estados Unidos, yo viví 22 años en Wisconsin y el sistema electoral en el estado de Wisconsin es muy diferente al sistema electoral aquí en la Florida. So, imagínate cuando viene alguien de Puerto Rico que solamente votan cada 4 años o de otros países y están aquí y son ciudadanos y pueden votar, que también es un sistema completamente diferente al de ellos. Cuando tú hablas con un ciudadano aquí en el condado y te lo dicen, mira, yo no sé por quién votar, yo no sé la diferencia entre el comisionado de la ciudad, si me toca votar por el condado o por cuál posición. Y yo creo que eso es una parte importante sobre por qué no tenemos más oficiales electos y Alianza con estos foros está haciendo un gran trabajo y en la parte cívica educando a nuestros jóvenes también. La otra parte que yo creo específicamente para este condado y para esta región es que tenemos una gran comunidad puertorriqueña que vino luego de María, lo que le llamamos los hijos de María, que todavía están pensando en volver a la isla, que tienen un pie aquí y un pie allá, y sabemos que muchas personas van a Puerto Rico para votar allá, le prestan más atención a lo que está ocurriendo en Puerto Rico que lo que está ocurriendo aquí. Mucha gente te dice, mira, yo no voy a votar porque, número uno, la falta de información, número dos, porque no entienden los procesos o conocen muy bien las posiciones y los candidatos, y por eso yo creo que es nuestra responsabilidad como candidatos de educar a esas personas sobre nuestro puesto, sobre los otros puestos y la importancia de que nosotros seamos los que elegimos a las personas que nos representen, porque el gobierno trabaja para la gente. Entonces nosotros somos empleados de los ciudadanos y hasta que los ciudadanos no se den cuenta de cómo funciona eso aquí, no se van a envolver más en el proceso.
Anthony, Nieves, Jorge Figueroa, ustedes ambos han trabajado en organizaciones o con causas que son relacionadas a Puerto Rico. La Cámara de Comercio, Anthony ha sido un activista con relación al estatus de Puerto Rico. ¿Cómo ustedes, cómo se vive esa conexión como puertorriqueños, como hispanos? Pues, también somos parte de una comunidad hispana, de venezolanos, de cómo se vive dentro de un representante estatal las necesidades de nuestra comunidad y esa relación que tenemos con Puerto Rico.
Bueno, por ejemplo, lo que yo he visto aquí como puertorriqueño es cuando se toma de Cuba, hey, hay discusiones al favor y al contra de la situación, también, o más al contra de lo que está ocurriendo en Cuba, también con Venezuela. Pero cuando se trata de Puerto Rico, lo que yo he escuchado de los residentes que nos hemos tocado en su puerta es la confusión de que, ok, si el demócrata es para el pueblo, más para el pueblo, ¿por qué están abrazando con los líderes de Puerto Rico que han dejado a Puerto Rico en ruina? Cuando tú tienes un electo demócrata aquí, por ejemplo, que vaya a Puerto Rico y está abrazando, o que un representante, por ejemplo, como un ex gobernador o un ex senador de Puerto Rico, por ejemplo, a decirlo así, del Partido Nuevo Progresista, vienen acá y están abrazando con los líderes demócratas, entonces aquí el boricua acá que va a votar dice, no, pero si los demócratas están con los republicanos de Puerto Rico, cuando no es así. La política de Puerto Rico es totalmente distinto a la situación acá, pero en Puerto Rico mi experiencia es que cuando se habla del Partido Nuevo Progresista, por ejemplo, esos son los riquitos, los republicanos. Los populares y los independentistas son más al nivel del demócrata en los Estados Unidos. So, necesitamos definitivamente representar la realidad de lo que está ocurriendo en Puerto Rico para que así se anima el público acá. La realidad es que en Osceola County en el 2024 fuimos últimos en lo que salimos a votar, últimos. Y lo primero que ponieron es, los boricuas no votaron, no fueron a votar. Nosotros somos un gran porcentaje, pero no somos todo el condado de Osceola. Pero nos echaron la culpa a nosotros como que, pues perdimos a Osceola, Osceola se fue rojo, simplemente porque el boricua no votó o el latino no votó. Y no es así, es que la impresión cuando vienen de Puerto Rico acá y ven a los oficiales electos abrazando con los carifrescos de Puerto Rico, ahí hay una situación que no se puede perdonar, ¿tú me entiendes? Entonces se alejan del sistema electoral aquí en los Estados Unidos.
Gracias, Anthony. Jorge.
Pues mira, como mencioné anteriormente, como presidente de la Cámara de Comercio puertorriqueña y buscándole oportunidades a los empresarios de aquí, tanto aquí en la Florida como en Puerto Rico, tenemos que trabajar con todos los oficiales electos, porque a la hora de los negocios no hay partido. O sea, todos están para crear empleos, para crear oportunidades y crear un legado y un futuro para sus familias. Yo creo que nosotros tenemos que enfocarnos en los issues, ¿verdad? Los problemas y las soluciones más que nada para la posición por la cual estamos estamos en esta campaña. Pero al mismo tiempo no podemos obviar nuestra sangre que nos llama, que queremos ayudar a nuestra gente en Puerto Rico, que queremos ayudar a todos los latinos aquí. Obviamente nosotros como puertorriqueños, que somos ciudadanos, tenemos una gran responsabilidad en nuestras manos de no solo apoyar a nuestra gente aquí en los Estados Unidos y en Puerto Rico, pero también apoyar a otras comunidades latinas que son nuestros hermanos, que tenemos muchas cosas en común y que sabemos que en su tiempo de necesidad, por ejemplo, con el tema de inmigración, ellos buscan a la comunidad puertorriqueña para ese apoyo. Pero hemos visto que en Puerto Rico, a diferencia de lo que Anthony mencionó, mira, podemos ver el pasado gobernador de Puerto Rico, Pedro Pierluisi, él se identifica como demócrata. La gobernadora actual es maga. Eso no es un secreto. Pero yo creo que eso confunde mucho a la población puertorriqueña cuando vienen aquí a este país y se alinean con un partido del otro basado en los partidos políticos de Puerto Rico, cuando aquí la realidad es completamente diferente. Y yo creo que tenemos que, obviamente, tener esa educación y esa perspectiva de educar a nuestra gente de cómo funcionan las cosas aquí, no olvidarnos de dónde vinimos y hacer todo lo posible para ayudar a nuestra comunidad, para que nuestras personas entiendan que es importante la política de aquí, al igual que es en nuestros países latinoamericanos.
Gracias. Entonces, Anthony mencionó un hecho, y es un hecho, el que analiza las elecciones lo sabe, que Osceola County tiene el nivel más bajo de votación en todo el estado de Florida, el nivel más bajo en todo el estado de Florida. Y siendo uno de los condados, uno de los únicos condados que tiene mayoría hispana, eso es un peso fuerte para nosotros cargar. Entonces, ¿qué podemos decirle a nuestra gente, y no solamente a los puertorriqueños, a todos los hispanos que están capacitados para votar, que están inscritos para votar, que cualifican para votar? ¿Qué podemos decirle a esa comunidad que los anime en este momento tan difícil y tan polarizante, y a veces que la gente se desconecta completamente de lo que está pasando, porque a veces es tan frustrante y feo que es fácil uno pues mirar al otro lado? ¿Cómo nosotros podemos activar a esos votantes para que salgan a votar?
No, yo creo que esto es una gran oportunidad, especialmente en este distrito, con Anthony y este servidor, de exhortar a nuestros latinos a que se adentren en este proceso electoral, de que tenemos la gran oportunidad de elegir latinos que entienden nuestra idiosincrasia, que entienden nuestros países, nuestra cultura, nuestro idioma, que podemos entender sus necesidades, para que salgan a votar. Voten por un latino que pueda hacer el trabajo y que lo represente dignamente, ¿ok? Porque cuando no estamos envueltos en el proceso, estamos dejando las elecciones en manos de otros. ¿Por qué hay otras personas anglosajonas, afroamericanas, en puestos en comunidades que son mayormente latinas? Pues porque no estamos saliendo a votar, no nos estamos apoderando de un proceso que nos va a brindar las oportunidades de tener a alguien que nos entiende y que va a tener asimilación con nuestras necesidades. Nosotros como puertorriqueños entendemos las necesidades de los puertorriqueños, de nuestros hermanos latinos, y una vez uno de los dos esté electo, vamos a representar dignamente a nuestra comunidad. Pero tenemos que las personas dejar ¿verdad?, de quejarnos por los problemas que tenemos y ser parte de la solución. ¿Y cuál es la solución? Es salir a votar desde el 7 de agosto, que empiezan las elecciones tempranas aquí en el condado de Osceola, hasta agosto 18, y mirar bien a los votantes, no dejarse llevar por Facebook, por Instagram, pero leer bien la información de cada uno de nosotros, nuestras plataformas, y miren a sus propias vidas, cuáles son los problemas que los afectan y cuáles son las soluciones que ustedes quieren ver, y voten por esos candidatos que representan sus valores y sus morales. Pero tenemos que ser parte del proceso, no podemos quedarnos afuera, porque los blancos, los morenos, van a seguir votando. Y si nosotros no votamos, estamos dejando que esas otras poblaciones elijan por nosotros.
Mucho más simple y mucho más corto. Somos el poder y tenemos el poder de cambiar toda la situación en la cual nos encontramos. Pero quiero tocar brevemente en la pregunta anterior que con la relación con los oficiales de Puerto Rico. Hasta el día de hoy yo no conozco un puertorriqueño al nivel electo, al nivel local, municipal, estatal, regional, lo que sea, en todo el estado de Florida, que sea, por ejemplo, puertorriqueño, hablando específicamente porque de ahí somos nosotros, ¿me entiendes? No están llamando a la atención a lo que está ocurriendo en Puerto Rico, ¿me entiendes? El electo cubano, venezolano, nicaragüense, sí habla de lo que está ocurriendo en su país, pero el oficial electo aquí en Florida, en cualquier nivel, no están haciendo lo que deberían hacer, en mi opinión personal, de llamar la atención a los oficiales, a los electos de Puerto Rico que tienen a nuestra bella isla en ruina, ¿me entiendes? Y yo espero que si soy yo o si es Jorge, que ponemos atención, que le ponemos atención a la tragedia que es lo que está básicamente ocurriendo todos los días en Puerto Rico, si no es por una planta eléctrica que se fue a ajuste o si no es por un derrumbe de la tierra, we stay too quiet. And that's a big problem in the Spanglish right there at the end, you know. We need to vocalize what's happening in Luma. I don't know an elected official here throughout the state of Florida that is known for calling out Luma and calling out the administrations in Puerto Rico. The same way that Cubans will call out what's happening in Cuba, or the Venezuelan leaders will call out what's happening in Venezuela. Whether it's pro or con, the situation or the government, we don't have that. You talk about a government official or you talk about a particular party ideology y ya la gente, ese es comunista o ese es socialista o ese es estadista y ya se vuelve nada.
Un sello.
Un sello.
Bueno, vamos a movernos también a un tema que estamos viviendo todos aquí y nosotros todos como puertorriqueños, hispanos en la Florida y en el país, porque esto es un problema a nivel nacional. No vivimos aislados los puertorriqueños por acá, los venezolanos por allá. Hay muchas familias, incluso cubanos por allá. Hay muchas familias que son cubanas y puertorriqueñas, o venezolanas y puertorriqueñas, o mexicanas y puertorriqueñas, o mexicanas y venezolanas. Nos mezclamos, ¿verdad? Somos así. Entonces, si vemos eso y estamos viendo como este énfasis que muchas personas, yo personalmente lo describiría como una forma cruel, donde se habló de inmigración dentro del contexto de criminales, personas que estaban causando daño, violando leyes serias del país, y se justificó todo este movimiento en contra de los inmigrantes a través de esta excusa, ¿verdad? De que hay que terminar con muchos de ellos que son criminales. Pues por un lado están los criminales que son de aquí, ¿verdad? Que hay también criminales que son ciudadanos. Pero, y podemos mirar hasta arriba. Pero eso ya estamos entrando ahí en un ámbito medio partidista, así que me voy a volver a reenfocar en la pregunta. Si miramos esa situación de inmigración, las eliminaciones de los TPS, la falsedad que fue esa estrategia, porque no están recogiendo solamente a personas que están cometiendo crímenes, están recogiendo a trabajadores, a niños, a familias enteras. Como legisladores de la Florida, ¿cuál es el rol suyo como parte de un cuerpo? Ustedes son un voto dentro mucho, obviamente, pero también está la persona, el individuo. Como individuos, ¿qué pueden hacer ustedes dentro de esa posición o qué harían ustedes con ese tema?
Bueno, mi situación es traerlo, bring it to the forefront. Hay que subirlo al nivel nacional o al nivel estatal, que el pueblo sepa, mira, lo que está ocurriendo en Wisconsin, lo que está ocurriendo en Minnesota, está ocurriendo aquí también. Y hay muchos puertorriqueños que están cayendo en eso, cuando hacen sus enredades, están cayendo y tenemos los oficiales que al nivel de presentar el boricua que presenta su licencia de conducir vehículos, no entiendo, ni sabe que Puerto Rico es parte de los Estados Unidos. we have to just bring it to the forefront. We have to be better, we have to be better at bringing these issues to the forefront so that way the community could understand that what's happening in Miami is happening in Orlando, and this needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed to the point where what gives, what is the repercussion to someone who kills, que mate un inmigrante, que es un obrero que está, es el único, su sueldo es lo único que trae la familia, que sostiene la familia. Y si no hacemos una historia, si no presentamos las historias al nivel personal, del nivel personal al nivel estatal, lo que vamos a ver es que no vamos a tener ningún efecto, porque tenemos un gobernador y un presidente ahora que están al palo con los inmigrantes. Y entonces esa consistencia que tienen está también cambiando la opinión de los afroamericanos sobre los hispanos, está cambiando la opinión de los, bueno, definitivamente del blanco americano, pero también de otras razas. Están viendo al hispano como que, el indio o la persona que viene de la India o de Pakistán, ese immigrants, get them out of here. We have to make a spectacle of it. If we don't make a spectacle of it, nothing's going to happen.
Gracias.
Esto es un tema que para mí es bien personal. Mi hermano está casado con una mujer mexicana. En el estado de Wisconsin yo sufrí el mismo discrimen, racismo y prejuicio que mis hermanos mexicanos. La mayoría de mis mejores amigos de la escuela, de la universidad, son mexicanos. Muchos de ellos, no, sin yo saberlo, no eran ciudadanos. Y por eso yo llevo años yendo a Tallahassee, a Washington, D.C., a hacer advocacy with the American Business Immigration Coalition para traer esos issues a donde nuestros congresistas y senadores, para que sepan que nuestras comunidades migrantes forman una parte esencial de nuestra comunidad. El 80% de las personas que trabajan en agricultura son inmigrantes. La mayoría son latinos. Lo mismo con la industria de hospitalidad, al igual que la industria de construcción. Y sin esas personas no tendríamos la calidad de vida que tenemos en estos momentos. Pero tenemos que ir más allá. O sea, en realidad, los latinos son un target específico cuando se trata del tema de inmigración. Yo no he visto una redada en un barrio chino, en un barrio irlandés, en un barrio ruso, donde hay muchas personas que también son ilegales, pero se parecen más, ¿verdad? Se asimilan más a los americanos. Nuestra gente latina está siendo, se están enfocando en nuestra gente latina por el simple hecho de que el presidente cree que nuestros inmigrantes están votando y robándose las elecciones, que no es cierto, y que están más alineados con el Partido Demócrata, que tampoco es cierto. Aquí hay muchos inmigrantes que están más alineados con el Partido Republicano por las cosas que están haciendo, por ejemplo, en Cuba y Venezuela. Así que tenemos que estar pendientes y seguir, estar en esa primera línea de batalla y decirle a nuestros congresistas, senadores, que esto está mal y hablar de nuestras historias. Porque, como bien dijo Anthony, lo que está ocurriendo, la verdad que está ocurriendo en la calle, no es la verdad que los oficiales electos están viendo cuando hablan de nuestros inmigrantes.
Muy bien. Bueno, vamos a hacer una última pregunta y luego cerramos con los closing statements. Lo pueden hacer en inglés o en español, como ustedes quieran. Pero la última pregunta es para ambos. El 18 de agosto, son las 9 de la noche, y el contrincante opuesto ganó. Usted perdió. ¿Qué usted le va a decir a ese contrincante por teléfono cuando lo llame? Si lo llama.
Bueno, o sea, yo, de mi parte, o sea, que cuente conmigo, que tiene apoyo aquí. Yo creo que eso es una de las cosas más importantes que no nos podemos olvidar, que aunque somos oponentes en una elección, eso no nos tiene que hacer enemigos, que podemos trabajar en conjunto, si tenemos algo de importancia para traer a la mesa, para que nuestro oponente sea successful, que tenga éxito, y el apoyo que le podemos brindar eso va a poner un precedente, yo creo que que pueda enfocar a las personas en que, mira, nuestras diferencias son temporeras. Al final del día, que queremos que nuestra comunidad latina salga hacia adelante, que nuestros oficiales electos hispanos tengan éxito, que nos representen dignamente, y si nosotros podemos ser parte de ese éxito en Tallahassee, ¿por qué no? Entonces yo le diría, mira, felicidades, sabes que cuentas conmigo, que tienes mi apoyo, y en lo que pueda ayudar, voy a estar ahí 100%, y espero que consideres la ayuda que se está ofreciendo.
Lo mismo para mí, Marco, sería yo el apoyo 100%, somos líderes de la comunidad, igualmente que como te voy a necesitar a usted, voy a necesitar a Jorge. It doesn't matter, my support will be 100%, pero en sí, con foros como esta, tenemos grabado las intenciones de cada cual. Quiero que usted cumple con todas esas intenciones. Si te puedo ayudar en eso, echamos para adelante. Si no, pues allá tú con tus opiniones y tu forma de presentar la situación, pero lo más importante es que el asiento ya, como se dice, ya se cambió. Por primera vez en 4 años, ahora es un asiento demócrata, y somos candidatos demócratas, y voy a apoyar a Jorge. Si Jorge gana las elecciones, él tiene mi apoyo al 100%. Esto es un deporte de sangre, blood sport, como digo. La política, cuando tú te envuelves en la política, tú encuentras y tú vas a ver cosas y vas a pasar por experiencia que te va a poner mal. Tú no vas a dormir bien, no vas a comer bien, tú sabes. Y tu familia también sufre, porque yo, por ejemplo, con mi niño, ahora de aquí, voy a ver a mi hijo, donde él está, lo están observando, ¿me entiendes? Y son cosas que yo... we need to have each other's support for sure, you know, especially as Puerto Ricans, especially with Puerto Ricans being the largest ethnic group in this district, you know, and even though they took out Ponciana, Puerto Ricans for House District 47 en puertorriqueño todavía es la etnicidad más grande de todo el distrito. Más cuando estaba con Ponciana y Buenaventura Lakes, pero también con la inclusión de St. Cloud, del municipio de St. Cloud, the largest ethnic group in all of House District 47 remains to be the Puerto Rican people. So we hope to keep that with dignity and move forward.
Muchas gracias. Yo me envolví tanto en el debate de español que se me olvidó preguntarle a la audiencia si tenemos preguntas, y me siento obligado a ofrecerle al público una pregunta. Ok. Linda.
Primero que nada, felicitarlos a los dos, porque ambos son puertorriqueños y ponen la isla en un buen pedestal. Vengo conociéndolo, y mi importancia como puertorriqueña, aunque este no es mi distrito, es conocerlo y dar a conocer la voz de ustedes a diferentes puertorriqueños, que sé que hay 59% de puertorriqueños en este distrito. ¿Okay? Ahorita les pregunté que si alguno de ustedes sabía cuál era el presupuesto que este año 2026 tenía, y es un $7 millones. Y ustedes tienen más o menos 185,000 personas en su distrito. El distrito al cual yo pertenezco tiene 185,000 personas y tiene $63 millones. Ambos distritos, o el de Paula Spark que están ustedes y el de Dani Álvarez en el que estoy yo, son distritos de republicanos. Estoy convencida que con ustedes dos, como puertorriqueños, y es mi mensaje para ambos, es que trabajen y luchen para que este distrito se convierta en un distrito próspero, porque el dinero lo hay. Y necesitamos que ustedes nos ayuden a que no solamente los puertorriqueños, todos los latinos, como dijo la compañera ahorita, crezcan, profundicen sus negocios y se pueda volver el ejemplo para la Florida, como el Distrito 47, que nos merecemos todos los puertorriqueños y todos los latinos. Así que mucho éxito a ambos, mucha suerte en su elección.
Muchas gracias.
Amén, amén. Gracias.
Bueno, con eso yo creo que podemos pasar a los final statements, el closing statement. Así que comenzamos de allá para acá, así que ahora comenzamos de acá para allá.
I'll say this in English, so since
Sure.
we didn't have a closing statement
Sure.
for the English portion. I've lived in Osceola County and House District 47 the majority of my adult life. It's where I raised my kids. It's where I worked the majority of my life in different capacities. I love Osceola County and I love House District 47. I love the changes when you go from Kissimmee to St. Cloud and from St. Cloud to Kissimmee. It almost feels like there's an imaginary line in between with different cultures and different understandings and different beliefs and different political ideologies. I want that fused. I want that to become one. We are House District 47. It's an inclusion of the city of Kissimmee, the city of St. Cloud, and a portion of Orange County in Orlando, Meadow Woods and Wyndham Lakes. Putting forth our best foot forward in a county and in a district that has seen a lot of suffering from the political level. We have our last duly elected sheriff that still is awaiting trial. And that's something that hit the nerves of our community, both good and bad, depending on what perspective you have. When we look at the city commission in Kissimmee and the city council in St. Cloud, sometimes there are quiffs here and there are problems. That affects the community because that means nothing's getting done. When we look at the Republicans, and this is why I want every single Republican to go out and exercise your choice, whether it's for Jorge or myself, to go out and vote, because you too are frustrated. You're frustrated in that your state representative unfortunately did not re-qualify for election. So we have almost pretty much half the population of House District 47 up in arms and furious that just like that, their representative is not going to be running again and for another 2 years, or it's not going to be in office for another 2 years. I need to hear what your concerns are as Republicans or as any other party affiliate, because we are going to be the conduit, and I use that a lot because that's very important. We have to be the vessel that unites all of the municipalities, the 2 counties, and that elevates, the standard of living and the quality of life for all residents of House District 47.
Again, I am not a career politician. I am a public servant. Llevo más de 30 años sirviendo a nuestra comunidad como voluntario en diferentes posiciones, aún con la Cámara de Comercio es una posición voluntaria. Estoy corriendo because we see the need. There is a need for change. There's a need for representation. There is a need for somebody who can focus on solutions and can work and compromise in Tallahassee for common sense legislation. Nosotros necesitamos a alguien que conozca nuestras necesidades, que conozca, que se enfoque en las soluciones y no en los problemas, y que tenga la experiencia y la capacidad, además de las ganas de trabajar para buscar soluciones. Estoy corriendo aquí porque tengo una bella familia, unas bellas hijas que quiero que tengan un mejor futuro. Soy un dueño de negocio y quiero que nuestra región crezca económicamente y que provea trabajos que puedan sostener una familia. So we need to really focus on the issues at hand, what is affecting our communities, the affordability, the education, the healthcare, our environment, and all those areas that affect our everyday lives. Si nos enfocamos en ayudar a nuestros residentes, vamos a hacer un gran trabajo. If we can tackle what the issues that affect our everyday lives and affect our pockets and our quality of life, we are in the right business. So I'm running because God gave me this opportunity. God gave me the one and the opportunity to do this in order to represent our people and be a voice in Tallahassee for the underrepresented. And I exhort all of you to go out and vote during early voting on August 18th and to choose a candidate that you think will represent best your interests and your values. And I know we got the compromise to make it happen, and we hope to see you all going out to vote. And I hope that you can consider Jorge Figueroa as your next representative.
Bueno, muchas gracias a los dos. Thank you both. And with this, we conclude the evening. Thank you for being here tonight, everybody that's in the audience, and for your questions. Tomorrow, we will be holding another candidate forum. Tomorrow, we will have the two candidates that are running for School Board District number 1. That's the district that covers primarily the neighborhood of Celebration and that west side of Osceola County. So we encourage all of you to join us again. And those of you who are watching on YouTube, tune in tomorrow at 6:30. For those of you who want to know or want to be here in person, it's 122 West Brow, and we welcome you there tomorrow. And don't forget that on September 18th and 19th, the Puerto Rico Bar Association is having a national conference. And the 18th in the evening, we're partnering with them to bring political salsa, which is a big hobnob in the political, in the Latino community here in Orange and Osceola County. That's going to be a big event. We expect to have more than 300, 400 people there. Wow. And multiple candidates at many different levels will be going through there. And these candidates, obviously will be there to talk to you in person. So we invite you all to those events and stay tuned. We're having these every week. And, thank you, both candidates. I'm going to close by saying that I'm very hopeful in hearing this conversation between the two of you. And I always dream that as people that come from a different place, New York, Puerto Rico through New York, Puerto Rico through Wisconsin, Puerto Rico through Chicago, that we have a role here in the United States. We have made our lives here in the United States, and it's our role to play. And my hope would be that role is to elevate the quality of life of all people in the country, all people in our neighborhoods, and obviously for us who are struggling, being new in a new place, that we don't forget where we came from, and that we have that helping hand for those who need it. Everybody, whether it's someone with autism, whether it's somebody who's facing a problem with immigration, that's what our purpose as Puerto Ricans here in Central Florida is, to extend that helping hand, hold each other's hands, compete, because we have to compete. Competition is good, and we believe in competition, and we believe in the best being in front, and respecting that. So I think the conversation today is very promising for that development of that culture here in Central Florida. So thank you both. Y con eso, muy buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Great job, bud.